Whatever you're into when it comes to sports, you can find it right here. Now, play my intro. Now it's time for the Robb Johnson Sports Show, presented by Robb Johnson Media and the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Robb Johnson Sports Show, episode 83. You're asking why you're not seeing my face. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it takes money to see my face. Literally, it takes money to see my face. I need you all to get those views up. I need you all to get those likes up. I need you all to get those subscriptions, those subs up, not only for Robb Johnson Media, but for the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Legacy Maker Sports Network, one of the best sports groups in the world, in my opinion. I don't care what anybody says. And Robb Johnson Media, a fast-growing empire in the sports game. What are we talking about today, folks? Well, we're simply going to talk about some sports issues, some sports things, of course. Not going to be on here too long today. Not going to give you all too much information. Just going to go through what we're going to go through. So let's talk about the college football playoff real quick. Tomorrow we have Penn State against Boise State. There is this sentiment out there that the Penn State Nittany Lions are going to dominate the Boise State Broncos. And I sit back, folks, and I really ask myself, what are people really thinking about? What are people doing that they have this this feeling that the Boise State Broncos are going to get destroyed by the Penn State Nittany Lions? And you have to really ask yourself, do people really watch the game? Do they see what's going on? Do they see, what's happening during the college football season? That's what you really have to ask yourself. Before we continue, folks, let's go ahead and get a quick commercial break. Our guy, Larry Patterson, will give him a quick shout out. Check out Game Time 365 Sports on the Game Time Sports Network. Larry Patterson bringing the heat to you every single time. Yeah, I had to give Larry Patterson a shout out there real quick, guys. But again, do people really watch what goes on during the college football season? Do they not see a team like the Boise State Broncos not out here having close games against the Oregon Ducks? Do they not see them out here with one of the better running backs that we've seen since possibly Barry Sanders? Now, we've had some great running backs, had 2,000-yard seasons, have had great seasons. But, folks, we have not had a guy like Ashton Jeanty in a long time, folks. We have not had a guy to dominate. And here's the kicker when it comes to a guy like Ashton Jeanty. He lost the Heisman Trophy. He's pissed off that he lost the Heisman Trophy. And I think he's going to take out on Penn State tomorrow. If you look at Penn State's schedule, they barely beat a Bowling Green team that was 76 during the season. You blow off some teams, you lose to Oregon by 8 late in the season. You have the close games in Minnesota. You have close games against Ohio State. You have close games against USC. Some other games that you played well, but you actually did not impress. Penn State's a good football team. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody that Penn State's not a good football team, but you have to look at Boise. Boise is 12-1 on the season. They beat a really tough San Diego State team to begin the season. Well, not going to say tough, but they're 3-9, so I can't even say that. But they played some good football. Yes, their competition wasn't the greatest, starting out with San Diego State and Nevada, but they eventually played a team in Oregon. That was late in the season. They played an Oregon team. They lost 37-34. They beat a Washington State team who was 8-5, a really underrated Washington State team, of course, who lost to Syracuse the other night. So if I'm Penn State and I'm walking into this game against Boise State, I'm not taking anything for granted. You can't take anything for granted because you understand just how good this football team is. You understand the history of this football team and what they've done before in bowl games. The miracle against Oklahoma. You've had other games where they played pretty well. So if you are the Penn State Nittany Lions, you have to make sure you take this game as serious as possible. You can't look at the names. The name on the front of the jersey does not matter. This is a really good Boise State team, and they must be taken seriously. Now, going to New Year's Day, we have Texas, Arizona State. Another game where people think, oh, it's going to be a blowout. Texas is going to dominate Arizona State. Arizona State doesn't have anything except their running back, Scatterboo. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I must educate you. Sam Levitt, 24-5. The Arizona State Sun Devils have tradition. The Arizona State Sun Devils are a really good football team. Do not let the fact that they're Arizona State fool you. I think that Texas ultimately wins this game, but I think that Arizona State will keep this game as interesting as possible. Oregon against Ohio State. This game is a 5 p.m. game. Toss up for me, folks. Complete toss up. We don't know what Ohio State team we're going to get. We don't know what kind of Ohio State team we're going to get. And by saying that, I mean that are they going to show up and are they going to put the hammer to Oregon? Are they going to be more physical up front than Oregon? I don't know that. I know that Oregon with Dylan Gabriel, they're going to show up. So Ohio State better show up as well. The last time these teams played, it was a close game. There was the slide of hurt around the world. Ohio State comes in the playoff with 2 losses. They destroyed Tennessee on the 21st of December. Again, those 2 losses to Michigan and that 1 loss to Oregon. In any other year, they're not playing or not contending for a national championship. But we have the system we have with this whole college football playoff, which I absolutely hate. I do not like the 12-team playoff. I do not like this format. I'd rather have the 4-team playoff or at least bring me back to BCS. I hate this format. It's almost, I'm not even calling it a participation trophy. I'm going to call it that teams can lose in the regular season like Ohio State did. Ohio State lost to a Michigan team who wasn't even that good, and they have an opportunity. Not only did they get the opportunity to have a home game, but they're have an opportunity to play for a national championship. Like, to me, that is ridiculous in so many ways. But again, that's the new landscape we're living in, so there's nothing you can really do about it. So, not tomorrow, but on the 1st, I'm going to take Oregon in this game. Oregon has done nothing to show me that they are not the better team. I do think Ohio State will give them a great game. I think it will be a close game. But in my eyes, give me Penn State, give me Oregon in this game to beat Ohio State and send them packing. And let me just say this as well, folks, to the Ohio State faithful, too. And of course, Oregon had that close game at Wisconsin, but late in the season at Wisconsin, late in December, cold game. I mean, you shouldn't really give them too much of a hassle over that. But let me say this, folks, to Ohio State fans. You guys are out here complaining. You're out here upset over Ryan Day, talking about Ryan Day should be fired and this and that. Listen, Ryan Day should not be fired, folks. Ryan Day is a really good head coach. He has taken Ohio State Buckeyes to great heights. He's done great things as a head coach. I think that you'd be absolutely foolish to not have this guy as your coach. I think you would be absolutely crazy to not have this guy back. Even if he were to lose this game, how can you really justify that? You can't justify not bringing Ryan Day back. Ryan Day is one of the best coaches in college football. I'm not going to say of all time, but he's already one of the best coaches that Ohio State has had in their history, and they've had some really good ones. From the Bows to of course, you have some of the great coaches that have ever played at Ohio State who've won national championships. But Ryan Day is a national championship away from being up there in the upper echelon of that program. That's how good Ryan Day is. That's how good he recruits. And I know everybody talks about the $20 million roster, blah, blah, blah. But listen, man, it takes more than money to build a football roster. This is a good roster. This is a good team. It's a well-coached team. Give Ryan Day an opportunity to continue to show what he has. That's all I'm going to say to you, Ohio State fans, if they go down to Oregon tomorrow night. Now, the 8:45 game, the Sugar Bowl, we used to call it the Nokia Sugar Bowl. It might still be, but it's a Sugar Bowl. Notre Dame against Georgia. Here's the big thing from this game. You have Carson Beck on the season who had 20 and folks, let's be honest here. People say this was a down year for Carson Beck. Look who he lost. He lost McConkey and he lost Bowers to the NFL. Look what those guys are doing. Your numbers will be down too. So a lot of you uneducated people out there who are talking this mess about Carson Beck, if you lost those 2 weapons, your season would be down too. you wouldn't be the same team, folks. So let's be honest about that. Carson Beck lost two really good receivers. Look at what Brock Bowers is doing in Las Vegas when he doesn't even have a quarterback. Look at what McConkey's doing in the first year regime in Los Angeles. He definitely has a better quarterback than Bowers has. But nobody expected the Chargers to be this good this quickly. Some of us expected them to possibly make a surprise playoff run, but they're playing really good football right now. And for me, when I look at this team and I look at this Georgia team, they're gonna have to run the football. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can slice it, dice it, say, hey, we're gonna have to try to pass the ball as much as we can. But no, this is gonna fall at the feet of Arian Smith. He's gonna have no, not Arian Smith. I apologize. That's the wide receiver position. I'm going to go back to my notes. And from a rushing perspective, when you look at the Georgia Bulldogs, they have not rushed the ball very well this year. When you look at Frazier, you look at ATN. ATN, I believe this is going to be the game for ATN in a sense. And is he questionable for this game? No, he was questionable for the SEC title game. ATN, to my opinion, folks, is going to be very critical when it comes to 21,000-yard pass catches now. Yeah, nice. Oh, got you there. But yeah, it's going to be critical. Larry Patterson, my guy right there, giving some stats. But it's going to be critical for Georgia to run the football. ATN coming over, I believe he was at Florida. He's over now at Georgia. It's going to be critical for him to have a great game. It's going to be critical for him to put in the work, because when you're starting a guy who's not used to starting in Stockton, Gunnar Stockton, 6'1" player, 215 out of Tiger, Georgia. So he's from Georgia. He knows what it's all about. On the season, he's passed for a little over 200 yards, it looks like, and no touchdowns and one interception. So if you are Gunnar Stockton, the goal in this game is not for you to be a hero. Even though I think that he can make throws, even though I think that he can, provide some things that they need on this Georgia team, the goal is to run the football and play good defense. Even though Georgia's defense has not been the greatest this year, folks, not been the greatest this year. You look at a team like Notre Dame. Notre Dame comes in. They, of course, they beat down their in-state rival Indiana. We know that. We've seen not Georgia. We've seen Notre Dame dominate their competition this past year. They gave up 35 to USC a few weeks ago. They scored 49. You look at through their schedule, they've pretty much beaten everybody. They did have the one game against Louisville where they only beat them by 7, so not a concern. But you look back at the game where they lost to Northern Illinois, a Northern Illinois team who finished the season 8-5. Not bad for 8-5, but still losing to a team like Northern Illinois was not the best look for this football team. If you're Notre Dame and you're Georgia, this game is a toss-up. So we picked Boise State, we picked Texas, we picked Oregon. In this game, folks, I'm gonna have to be honest. I would have to be honest with you to as much as I can. I don't know who's gonna win this football game. I think both teams have flaws that have yet to be exposed. Well, I can't say that. Georgia's flaws, I feel like, were exposed against Alabama. They had some flaws that were exposed against Georgia Tech, where Georgia Tech really put it to them, but they got lucky in the end and made better plays than Georgia Tech did. I think that Georgia can possibly expose some things by Notre Dame. I believe, again, whoever runs the football the best is going to win this football game. And right now, I can't really tell you who I think is going to do that better. Even though when you look at Notre Dame, you look at a guy like Jeremiah Love, he has over 1,000 rushing yards. And you look at Riley Leonard, the quarterback, he has over 700 yards, and he's a good thrower of the football coming over from Duke. 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, not the greatest yards that'll set the world on fire, no. But Leonard and his ability to run the football and get the ball out to his receivers and maybe some option game, maybe some RPO game. Right now, you're going to have to give it to Notre Dame. Because what does Georgia have that you can definitively say tells you they're the better team? What does Georgia really have right now with Carson Beck gone tells you that they are definitively, again, the better team? This is almost like Florida State all over again. Florida State losing their quarterback last year, but, you know, different circumstances, different situation. So right now, I'm going to have to give it to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame coming into this game is not the better team, but I feel like they're a little bit more of the healthy team. So we're going to give that to them. So again, my picks are I got Boise State, I got Texas, I have Oregon, and I have Notre Dame all moving on here in the college football playoff. Now, let's move to some NFL, folks. We're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk a couple of subjects. And I don't want anybody to get butthurt over this, but hey, I listen, it just is. And that subject is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles right now hurt themselves. And as you see down there in the caption, the Eagles hurt themselves. And you asked me how the Eagles hurt themselves. Well, it's not what you guys think. It's not me talking negatively about the Philadelphia Eagles. I know how people get very sensitive and, stuff like that in this day and time. And I get it. We live in a sensitive time in this country. The Philadelphia Eagles right now are 13-3. I don't care if the Eagles bring back Ron Jaworski, Randall Cunningham, or some backup quarterback from the past. It doesn't matter. Somebody in their 60s could beat the Giants next week. They could beat the Giants. No offense to the Giants, but right now the Giants just look horrible. And I don't know what the Indianapolis Colts were doing yesterday. I can't even put my hand or I can't put my finger on just what the Indianapolis Colts were doing yesterday. They didn't like they wanted to even play, giving up 45 points to the New York Giants. Anyway, the reason I say it's about the Eagles is that the Eagles are 13-3. If the Eagles had not dropped two passes, it comes down, folks, to two passes. It was in week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons. They dropped the ball. Saquon Barkley drops the ball. Then you look at last week against the Washington Commanders. Devontae Smith with some of the most reliable hands in football, not only in the pros, not only in college, but in the pros, a Heisman Trophy winner. You guys realize that if the Philadelphia Eagles do not drop those passes, do you know what their record is right now? Because they were going to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers were going to beat them, folks. I know a lot of people don't want to admit that, but the Buccaneers that day were just a better football team. And you have to really ask yourself, folks, if the Philadelphia Eagles convert those two passes, do you understand what their record is right now? The Philadelphia Eagles would be 15-1 right now going into their game against the New York Giants. And what would that mean, folks? That would mean the number 1 seed. Now, if you're the Eagles, you won the NFC East. So you don't have to worry about that. You won the division as I predicted coming into the season. Because let's be honest, the Eagles were the best team, not only in the NFC East, but in all of football. They weren't the best, but they were one of the best. So you had other teams. So when it comes to that, and when it comes to just everything, when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, basically, they hurt themselves because they could have had so much more. You guys understand just how frustrating and how hard it is to come through Philadelphia in the playoffs? We're not talking about just some, run-of-the-mill home field advantage. No, folks, we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. We're talking about Lincoln Financial Field. We're talking about one of the great home fields. So, as it stands right now, and I don't know if this is going to change or not, folks. It could change. I can't tell you. I do know that when it comes to the NFL and when it comes to some of these seedings, it's critical. It's very critical. So let's go through it. And it could change because I know right now the Lions are the 5 seed. That could flip with Minnesota. Minnesota could be the 5 seed, which means one of those teams will go to either Tampa or go to Atlanta. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be Tampa unless they completely wet the bed this upcoming week against the New Orleans Saints, and the Falcons lose. If the Falcons beat the Panthers and the Buccaneers lose, the Falcons by tiebreak would win the division. If the Buccaneers win, they take the division because of the Atlanta Falcons loss last night in Washington. So right now, if you're looking at the standings, the Vikings, of course, this could change again with the Detroit Lions. The Minnesota Vikings have the first round bye currently. Here are your matchups: the Eagles against the Packers, the Rams against the Commanders, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Detroit Lions. And let me ask you this, folks. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, wouldn't you rather have that bye? Wouldn't you rather be off that week instead of having to go against the Green Bay Packers like you did in week one? That game was in Brazil. This game will be at home in Philadelphia. But it's a dangerous Packers team. It's a Packers team that we saw last year, and they weren't even as good last year as they are this year. It's a dangerous Packers team that can go on the road and beat anybody. So again, it's not criticizing. This is not criticizing the Philadelphia Eagles. This is just simply saying they hurt themselves. Because if the Philadelphia Eagles have home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs, the chances of somebody beating them is almost slim to none. Because that home crowd is like no other. Going to Philadelphia in January is hard. Going to Philadelphia in January is a gauntlet. So again, two passes. It comes down to two drop passes. Because again, they're not beating the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers beat them. It was a blowout. That game wasn't close. The Eagles win those two games and they don't drop those two passes. And then you go into next week, you're beating the Giants, definitely. They're 16-1, which means you are not only the best team in the National Football League, not only do you have a chance to go and have one of the better records we've ever seen in the National Football League in the playoffs, you also get the home field advantage. So I just wanted to point that out. Now, here's the thing about Philadelphia. I still think they're one of the best teams out there. Um, do I think that the Detroit Lions are the best team in football still, even with the injuries? You're damn right I do. But let's not get it confused. If Jalen Hurts comes back with a fury, and I want to shout out you ignorant Eagles fans talking about Kenny Pickett should start over Jalen Hurts. Please stop talking. Please get off that train. And yes, I'm calling you ignorant. I'm sorry. You can't say nothing like that. Come on now. Like I get it. I get it. People like shock value. People like saying things. Get off of that. Please get off of that. Jalen Hurts brought Eagles back from the depths when Carson Wentz started going down. And shout out to Carson Wentz. Hopefully he gets himself a Super Bowl ring um, soon or this year or if he ever becomes a starter again. You know, he's waited his turn. He's done a good job. He's been a good soldier. Blah blah blah. But get off of Jalen Hurts, man. Jalen Hurts, guys. Jalen Hurts has done great things for your franchise. And yes, I have called him the weakest member on this offense because it's true. He is. You wouldn't take him over Saquon, over AJ Brown, or you wouldn't take him over other receivers. But that doesn't mean that he's not important. The weakest link doesn't mean they're not important. That means they're an X factor. That means that they're critical. Because sometimes even if you take away the weak link, it makes the structure even weaker. So, do you really think that Kenny Pickett is going to lead this team to a championship? Hell no. Hell no. So get off of that. So, again, I'll be doing a playoff preview next week as we see who's in the playoffs, what matchups. I'm gonna try to get my guy Larry Patterson on. We're gonna do playoffs, Super Bowl prediction, all that type of stuff. It's gonna be an interesting playoffs on both the NFC and AFC side. I'm really interested to see what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do because to me they are one of the more intriguing teams. Of course they're not getting that number one seed, which again, like I said, two drop passes away from getting that number one seed, and nobody's beating them coming through Philadelphia. So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, If you want to get Saquon Barkley the record this week, fine, do that. Get everybody healthy. Get everybody out after the first half. You don't need to play Jalen Hurts. Run the ball, timely passes. You do not need to get Jalen Hurts in that game unless you want to get him in there and get him some reps. That's fine. But the Eagles should be a dangerous football team going into the playoffs. Now, speaking of dangerous, let's talk about the Washington Commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Commanders, if you look at the post I made on Facebook, it's probably before the season. I can't remember when I made it. If I ever can pull it up, I'll bring it up and show you guys. I said Washington very soon will be a very dangerous football team. And I said when they drafted Jaden Daniels. And I also said do not waste Jaden Daniels and do not RG3 him. Well, so far this season, the Commanders have not RG3'd Jaden Daniels. Let's go through the Washington Commanders schedule. It's been a season of destiny, folks. Let's be honest about it. It's been a season of destiny. First game of the season, they lose to Tampa 37-20. Then they beat the Giants 21-18 after Malik Neighbors drop. You go to week 3. Everybody's thinking the Bengals are going to beat up on the Commanders, and here we go with the disaster. Well, they beat the Bengals 30-33. Then they dominate the Arizona Cardinals 42-14. They beat the Browns 34-13. They go to Baltimore. They lose to the Ravens, but it's only by 7, 30-23. A very entertaining game. They play against Carolina. They beat them 47. Now, October 27th, I feel like is when everything changed. I feel like everything changed in this game. You remember last year, the Commanders were playing pretty good football, folks. Then they played the Bears. Everything changed. The season changed. Well, this game against the Bears, they end up throwing a Hail Mary, win 18-5. It changed their season, and it changed everything for the Bears as well. The Commanders went up. The Bears went down. That game changed the game. Against the Giants on November 3rd, you always know the Giants Commanders are going to play tough games. That's nothing new, folks. If you've been watching the NFC East for a long time, you know that the Giants Commanders they don't ever not play close games. It's always a close game. It was 27-22 Giants beating the Commanders. They lose to Pittsburgh 28-27. Close game. Thursday night football, they lose to the Eagles 28-18. They lose to the Cowboys 34-26. That was a bad game. I think they'll beat Dallas this upcoming weekend by at least 30, 35 points with no problem. They beat down the Tennessee Titans, a team that they're better than. That shows that they're a good football team. You go to New Orleans, which I don't care who the quarterback is. New Orleans is always a tough place to play. You beat the Saints 20-19. The Eagles, they beat them 36-33 off a drop pass. Devontae Smith drops the pass. Jaden Daniels leads his team down the field. You go to last night, 30-24. You have Michael Penix against Jaden Daniels, a quarterback duel that I hope we see for a long time. Really two smart, intelligent quarterbacks who are athletic but are real quarterbacks. Then this week you have the 1:00 game against the Dallas Cowboys, which is pretty much irrelevant in a lot of ways because the Commanders have already clinched. They already have done everything they're supposed to do. For me, folks, when I look at the Washington Commanders, when people ask are they a dangerous team, you're damn right they're a dangerous team. And it's not only just because, folks, of Jaden Daniels. No. That's not the only reason. There are a few factors on this football team that really just scared the living hell out of you. When you look at not only Terry McLaurin, you look at Zach Ertz, Zacchaeus, you look at Noah, you look at Brown, you look well, looks like Brown might be. Is Brown out? Oh, he's actually on injured reserve. He's actually on injured reserve, I believe, still right now. But they still have a lot of good players. We even have Luke McCaffrey who could still come into the fold and play well. So their receiving core is a pretty decent one. But I expect him to go out and get more weapons this upcoming offseason. When it comes to the running game, yes, he only has 182 carries for 789 yards and 8 touchdowns. But I'll continue to say this. Brian Robinson, 2-year player out of Alabama. He's a really good – he'll be going to his 3rd year next year. 3rd-round pick, number 98, 2022. That was a Ron Rivera hire. So for everybody saying Ron Rivera can't coach and he can't do anything, Ron Rivera made that pick. So just want to put that out there. Brian Robinson, a really good weapon. Almost 800 yards rushing. Jay Daniels has almost 900 yards rushing as a quarterback on the season. Austin Eckler, he had that really bad concussion. He can still return, which I think it would be great for him. Would be great for this team because he's a threat in the backfield with catching the football. Chris Rodriguez, I really like this young man. Um, 25 years old. He's out of Kentucky, sixth round pick in 2023. He got some good speed, some good power. Um, Now, when we go to the defensive side, when you look at, even though this guy is older, 34 years old, you look at the leadership that Bobby Wagner has brought to this team, and you think about the postseason pedigree that he can bring to this team. This is a critical piece for the Washington Commanders. Then you look at a guy like Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin, 26 years old, 2020 second round pick from the Carolina Panthers. They gave up on him way too early. I feel like he's been a really good piece for this team this year, a really good player, and I'm really happy that he found a home in Washington. Um, you look at Mike Stan Sanderstill. He's a rookie out of Michigan, second round pick. See, a lot of times we look at these college programs and we look at the success these teams have. We say, "Oh, can it really translate?" That Michigan defense, folks, is all time great. All time great. You can't call them the number one greatest college football defense of all time, but that defense was legit. It's the same defense that came in and kind of knocked off Michael Penix in the Washington Huskies and made them look a little bit normal in the national championship game going back to last year. So, when you have that type of guy who has that pedigree, it's a legit thing. It's an important thing. So to have those championship, I call them characteristics, are very, very important. You look at a guy like Dante Fowler, man, 10 and a half sacks. Last year, remember, he was in Dallas. He was used sparingly. He wasn't used that much, but he was in Dallas. He came over with the head coach with Quinn. 10 and a half sacks. Another guy, Dorrance Armstrong from Dallas. I told people coming in he was going to have a great impact on this team, and he has 5 sacks. He started out really fast, but he slowed down a little bit. He had 5 sacks on the season. You look at a guy like you look at a guy like Newton out of Illinois. He's second round pick. This team has a lot of good young weapons, a lot of talent on their football team that I'm really impressed with. I think that people should take them very seriously. If you're not taking Washington seriously, then I don't know exactly what to tell you. I don't know what you've been watching, but outside the Tampa game and maybe a few other games, this team is legitimately one of the more scarier teams in the National Football League. And I told you, folks, they have cap space. This team going into next year, they have cap space, and they're gonna be legit. They're gonna be legit. So if you think that they're not, then I just don't know what to tell you at this point. Next subject, we're gonna go to Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers on the season, and I feel like I think it was Mike Dicker's record he broke when it came to yardage. He has 108 grabs on the season for 1,144 yards and 4 touchdowns. And this is my question to a Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams, you had this young man on your side of the ball. You all could have gotten a quarterback and done some really great things in the future. Devontae is a little bit older, but you could have done some great things. And your whole objective, Devontae Adams, was winning. You're now 32 years old. You'll be 33 next year. You said your objective, Devontae Adams, was to win. And I get all that. But let me ask you a question to a Devontae Adams. The Jets finished 4-12. What's the Raiders' record? The Raiders are 4-12 as well. So you didn't do nothing. You did nothing. You have the same record in Vegas that you would have. I'm saying that you have the same record in New York / Jersey that you would have in Vegas. What changed? You came back next year with at least a decent quarterback. You could have done some great things with this young man. This Brock Bowers is legit, folks. This Brock Bowers, and you have it as you see it here. I have it saying the Hall of Fame trajectory of Brock Bowers, and that's what I mean, folks. Look at what he's doing. And you look at the at the you look at the impact that Brock Bowers has made not only with the Raiders, but the impact he has made with the Georgia Bulldogs. Look at the Bulldogs. Look how much different they look without this guy, without this tight end. People made fun of him coming into the league. Oh, he looks like an old man, and can he really be that guy? And is he really that good? And blah blah blah. Well, folks, he has proved that he is more than just been that guy. I mean, who else do the Raiders have at this point? You look at the Raiders. You look at the Raiders, and you tell me honestly, who else do they have on this football team? We can go to the stats if you guys want to. We can look at a Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. And actually, Aiden O'Connell he hasn't been great. He hasn't been great. He has 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Better than Gardner Minshew, who had 9 and 12, and Spencer Rattler, who has 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the season. They're 2 and 3 in their last 5 games. But you have to ask yourself, who else do the Raiders have? Jacoby Myers, good player, not a great player. We're looking through this. They don't have anybody, folks. Terrence Marshall, he's a rookie. No, I'm sorry, he's not a rookie, but he's out of LSU. He didn't do nothing. He hasn't really done anything all year. What have the Raiders done all year that tells you that they have a great receiver on their roster besides Brock Bowers? And more than that, folks, look at that. And yes, Jacoby Myers has 78 catches for 904 yards. That's great. He has an opportunity to go over 1,000 yards this upcoming week, and that's great. Again, Jacoby Myers, really good wide receiver. He would be more in line of my third receiver. But he gets those because Brock Bowers is so daggone good. He's so daggone good, folks. And then you look at their running game. Madison with 400 yards. Abdullah with 311 out of Alabama. He's a 31-year-old running back. They're going to have to get younger at that position. They're going to have to get better at that position. I would not take an Ashton Genty because they need more than an Ashton Genty. They're not going to get better by getting a Genty. So they're going to have to be responsible with that pick when they make that pick. But Brock Bowers, you look at what he did at Georgia. You look at what he's done so far in his young career. I mean, there's a possibility. Let's see who the Raiders' last game is against. The Raiders' last game is against the Chargers. The Chargers are not going to be looking to do anything. The Chargers are in the playoffs. So who's to say that Brock Bowers won't have 12? If I'm the Raiders, I throw this guy the ball 30 times. I throw him the ball every time. I try to get this guy 120, 130 catches. I try to make a statement and say, this is going to be the hallmark of our offense. You already have Travis Kelce out there. You look at this division and you look at just some of the great tight ends. And I think that's one thing that people just don't factor in. And if I'm missing some names, then you guys can comment. But you look at some of the great players that have come through this division. You look at the Tony Gonzalez's, you look at the Shannon Sharps, you look at the Antonio Gates, and now you have Brock Bowers. I mean, you've had some of the great tight ends to ever play this game come through this division. You've had, like I said, Shannon Sharp with the Broncos, Tony Gonzalez with the Kansas City Chiefs. You've had Antonio Gates with the Chargers, and of course, you used to have Seattle, who played in this AFC West a long time ago before they transitioned to the NFC West. But man, this Brock Bowers guy is good. This Brock Bowers guy is going to continue to break records, and I believe he's must-see TV. If he's not must-see TV, then what the hell are we even talking about? He is a great player. He has great attributes. He plays the game the right way. If I'm the Rays, I try to get him every record in the near future. I try to get themselves a quarterback in this upcoming draft. I have to go back and look through the standings and see where they're placed at right now. The Raiders, and by the way, myself and Larry Patterson, we'll be doing a show here pretty soon. We'll be giving you guys some, the top 32 best players in the NFL draft. I'm going to be doing a full breakdown everything. Usually I'm doing other stuff during draft time. I think this year I'm going to be just doing my own thing when it comes to the NFL draft. Bring you guys something different, some type of different production, do some different things, and bring that to you guys because this is probably one of the more important and consequential NFL drafts that we've had in NFL history in a very, very long time. So, again, I'm looking at Brock Bowers. I'm very excited for him. He just turned 22. I believe it was this month in December. So he's only 22 years old. He's not going to be 23 until December of next year, 2025. Very, very excited about this team and what this team has the ability to do. So, yeah, this team and then the players as individuals. So we'll definitely see how it goes. Now, let's get to our next segment where we tell somebody to do what? We tell them we want them to shut the hell up. So let's go to the shut the hell up segment.
I need you to shut the hell up for the immediate future.
All right, folks, we talk about our shut the hell up segment. When it comes to that, yeah, I really don't have too many people that I want to really shut the hell up at this point. Um, you know what? I do have one. Let me shout out Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, please shut the hell up about anything that has to do with not letting Mike McCarthy go. Mike McCarthy should be let go. He should not be on this team next year. Go out. I have many projections. I have many projections where the Cowboys should go. Um, also, let me say this as well. For those people who are saying that Lamar Jackson should not win the MVP, shut the hell up. Do I think he's going to win the MVP? No. But do I think that he has an opportunity? Yes, I do. For the people who say that that Joe Burrow should win the MVP, shut the hell up. And I say that because his team has what, 8 losses. They took a lot of bad losses on the season. So just saying, Joe Burrow having a great season. But I have to also point out something that Shannon Sharp said this morning. Drew Brees had some 5,000-yard seasons, some 40-plus touchdown seasons, and he ain't win the MVP. So I'm just want to keep that in mind, folks. Just keep that in mind when you guys are out here, looking at the stats, looking at all these other things like that. Just keep in mind, Drew Brees has had some of these seasons. Matthew Stafford had to give credit to somebody who said it this morning as well. Matthew Stafford has had some great seasons. Did not win MVP, even though the team barely made the playoffs or were like a really high, where they were like the last team to get into the playoffs. So just wanted to point that out. Now, let's get to tell the world how we feel. Take this part off right here. When we talk about telling the world how we feel when it comes to this, when it comes to today, not really too much to say. I just want to tell the world from a sports perspective. Okay, we look at this right here, the Heisman Trophy. Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy, even though I thought that Ashton Jeanty should have won the award. But when it comes to Colorado, folks, Deion Sanders won 9 games this year for Colorado when they were stinking a couple of years ago. It's like, why do we continue? Why do we continue to be? Why are people so? And I call it maybe like the Caitlin Clark effect. The difference is Deion has actually won something before in his career. Caitlin Clark's never won any championships. Now, has Deion won anything as a coach? No, he hasn't, but he has won them as a player. Um, you know, so I guess my tell the world today is basically this. When it comes to people like Caitlin Clark, when it comes to people like Deion Sanders, I understand a lot of you people out there are biased. I know there are people like you out there who are biased against certain teams, biased against certain players, and I get it. But after a while, folks, you start to look petty, and especially if you're in the journalism business and all you do is attack. Listen, and I get it. You got to get that niche where you make yourself look popular. But listen, I don't respect the Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless era. That's the era that we're living in still, that we have to deal with. Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, I respect those guys. They started the newspapers, they worked their butts off, but we're still living in that era of hot takes. And everybody thinks they have to do that to get somewhere. And I'm here to tell you, folks, to be a journalist, you don't have to do that. You can have integrity and do things the right way and not target players, target coaches, target teams. Now, if you're just giving a perspective, yes. But if you want to give a perspective and that's something that you've been talking about and you're giving fair and balanced takes, I'm fine with that. But when you're going off the cuff and you're just like being overly dramatic just because you want attention and because you think that it can get your views up and all that, and it's not genuine, I don't respect that. But look, at the end of the day, you all can do whatever you want. That's that. If you think that's journalism, if you think that that's the way to go, do you? But I know the way I roll. So that was episode 83 of the Robb Johnson Sports Show. I'm glad you all watched. I will be back with you all tomorrow to talk some sports, to talk some college football playoffs. More than likely, it will be to talk about the Penn State Boise State game. I think that game is early, and then we'll give that game a talking after it's over with on New Year's Eve. You guys enjoy your New Year's Eve tomorrow, and then enjoy your New Year's Day. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Also, I will be doing a preview. Yes, folks, the A10 season is back. I will be doing a preview of Ram Talk. Let's see, that will be tomorrow. So let's see here. VCU plays St. Bonaventure tomorrow at St. Bonaventure in a huge game at 2 p.m. So I'll be back with you guys tomorrow at noon to talk about, no, actually, it'll be 1 p.m. tomorrow. 1 p.m. a game, an hour before game time, we'll be talking VCU against St. Bonaventure, the 10-3 Rams against the 12-1 St. Bonaventure Bonnies. See you guys tomorrow for Ram Talk. See you guys tomorrow for the Robb Johnson Sports Show, episode 84, as we talk about Boise State and Penn State. That game tomorrow will be at, let's make sure we got the right time for that. That game will be a 7:30 p.m. game. I'll be talking to you guys at 7 o'clock tomorrow, giving you a quick preview of that game. We'll see you tomorrow for Ram Talk and the Robb Johnson Sports Show. You guys have a good night. Oh, and by the way, shout out to the New Kent Trojans. Those guys are 9-0, and they're playing really, really good basketball. Shout out to the Trojans, who I cover for the NKCC News.
It's caught in the crossfire.